Shall we talk about Trap
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, let's just get straight into Trap. Yeah.
So Trap, from the twisted mind of M. Night Shyamalan. We all know who M. Night Shyamalan is, the Sixth Sense guy. So this film stars, what's his name again?
Josh Hartnett.
That's right, Josh Hartnett. This film
And M. Night
stars,
Shyamalan at one point.
of course, because it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, so of course it has M. Night Shyamalan in it at a point. But no, it stars Josh Hartnett. He plays a father taking his daughter to a concert, a pop concert of a artist that she idolizes. But then during the concert, he starts to notice there's a pretty big police presence. And he questions one of the staff members at the concert and finds out that the concert itself is a trap to catch a serial killer. So like the FBI or the authorities have received intel that this serial killer is going to be at this concert, and they've created this trap to get him. But then twist, Josh Hartnett is the serial killer. So he is the butcher that they're trying to catch. So
Is that even a twist though?
no, well, it's in the trailer. It's in the trailer. That's
It's in the trailer.
Yeah.
So is that
But-
supposed? Is that the Shyamalan twist? Is that the twist?
Well,
Because this movie has kind of a lack of a twist.
I mean, yeah, we are going to talk full spoilers about this film, and so I guess there is no twist outside of that twist. Because
that
it's
the
a
twist?
Shyamalan film. When I saw this trailer, I assumed that the final twist would be that the daughter is also the serial killer. That I think a lot of people kind of had that take watching the trailer of the film.
I don't know. That'd be a little bit too stupid, though, if that
I
really
mean, this film
happened.
is a pretty stupid film, Thavy,
Yeah,
which is not
yeah.
outside of the wheelhouse of M. Night Shyamalan films. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's weird that this film doesn't have like an additional twist outside of the one that's shown in the trailer.
It's quite straightforward.
Yeah, I
if
mean,
anything.
I did enjoy like maybe the first half of this film. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that was in the concert.
Yeah.
The concert part of this film really reminded me of like a Hitman level. Where he's like kind of walking around, like trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. And he's just like in this environment that's filled with NPCs that are offering like loud and clunky exposition.
Oh, yeah. It's exposition. Yeah.
It's like he's talking to that staff, and the staff guy is like, "There's no way out. Except, of course, if you take the back entrance."
Yeah. It's Shyamalan movies have not been known for their subtle exposition and their
And
dialogue.
this film is a really Shyamalan film. It's like
Yeah.
full of weird acting and weird dialogue, like really unnatural
Yeah.
stuff. It's full of plot conveniences. There's a lot of like extreme close-ups of people.
Yeah. He really likes that angle where it's kind of
Yeah.
like a front. It's like a front shot where it is a close up. The framing is just weird, but I actually don't mind that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen a Shyamalan movie in a long while. I can't even remember the last Shyamalan movie that I watched because I kind of stopped watching them after Signs.
Right.
I didn't watch the remake of Avatar. I didn't watch The Happening. So I haven't seen any of the newer ones like
Didn't watch
After
Earth. Yeah, okay.
I didn't watch Old. I didn't watch.
Did you watch Split?
I didn't watch Split. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Glass, you haven't watched Glass, I assume.
Yeah, I haven't watched Glass.
Okay,
yeah,
it's
no.
been a while since you watched a Shyamalan film.
Yeah. He's not my favorite director,
Yeah.
but I know about his quirks.
Yeah.
And this movie is weirdly average, as I told you off air, because I think, like yourself, I actually really enjoyed the first half of the movie. All the concert stuff and the sneaking and stalking around is quite fun. And I don't mind weird, hokey acting dialogue because it's kind of like a stylistic choice,
Yeah.
I reckon.
I think in a Shyamalan film, when
Yeah.
it works, but
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it just doesn't work, and that's fine.
It doesn't,
as well.
yeah. My big issue is that, like, I sometimes harp on about, like, the intensity of a movie, whether it should be more violence or not. And I don't think this movie needed to be, I guess, super gory or violent, but it needed to have, like, some form of impact because the premise is quite strong, I think. And he is essentially a serial killer, like the butcher. And there's a part where she's talking to that NPC like staff member like getting the t-shirt, and he's like, oh look, and this is a really plot convenient. Oh, my friend just happens to have a footage or photo of like one of the bodies.
Yeah.
And he just like, he shows him through the phone, but we don't see it because the movie can't go beyond like a certain point because it's a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that really holds this movie back. Like even showing like an iota of something would have just added to the stakes of it. But it just seemed like when it seems to be going into that realm where it could have that impact, it just doesn't. Yeah. So I didn't really feel anything through the movie. I think Josh Hartnett does a really good job at this role. I really enjoyed his character.
Yeah,
he's really good in the movie.
He's having a really fun time.
Yeah. And I really like the relationship between him and his daughter because I found that very sincere to watch.
Yeah. The daughter does a good job as well, I think.
Yeah. He genuinely like loves his daughter, and I found that like quite sweet. But then the second half of the movie is like out of the concert and it just falls apart for me.
Yeah, it kind of unravels the longer it goes on for. And it keeps going. Yeah. Like the movie just kind of keeps going.
It just keeps going, yeah.
Which is, I guess it's not what I expected.
Yeah. But it's like, because a lot of this movie is not what you, because he plays around with a few different tropes, like the antagonist is basically the protagonist, and you are watching all these people outside of our knowledge try to catch him because they're essentially the ones that are trying to stop him. So it's a pretty interesting like device to play around with in a story sense, but it still feels like very average. Somehow it just feels average watching this movie. It feels samey, even though it's actually quite structurally different. It just kind of sucked the second half, and I got pretty bored, and it's not a long movie.
I think it becomes a bit too repetitive because the first half of the film is like him getting out of situations, right? And there's a good level of tension in them because you're just going into this movie, right? But then as it continues, it keeps going through this loop of him getting into a situation and then getting out of the situation, and it's like this constant loop that just doesn't seem to end. Like this movie felt like it had three endings. When he gets out of the concert, and then when he escapes his house for the first time, and then when he captures like the star again in the limousine, but then they both escape the limousine. And then there's a final ending where he goes to confront his wife, who turns out was the one that set him up that whole time. So I think it just went on for a bit too long and had a couple too many endings.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't mind plot contrivances as long as like the story and like what you're trying to say is interesting or if it's fun. But I think there's just a little bit too many in this movie.
Sometimes, plot armor kind of saves him. Like even at the end, he somehow manages to steal the spoke of a bicycle, even though there's like a million cops watching him.
And you're right. As if they wouldn't have like cops in the back of the van with him as well. Like he's like a highly skilled, dangerous individual as well. And it's just like,
I think that's the point where it kind of ticked over into funny for me. A lot of the time when I watch M. Night Shyamalan films, there's a point in the film where it ticks over into funny. And I think that's kind of why I enjoy his films as well, is because like he can do like serious and grounded up to a point, but then he just goes full Shyamalan at a point. And like I find him a very interesting director and creative to watch. To me, he's kind of like the Nicolas Cage of directors. Like he's got a high volume of work. He's very hit and miss, and his movies kind of offer like a spectrum of good to bad. Like he's got his good movies that are just like good movies, like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split, that kind of thing. He's got bad movies that are also just bad, like Avatar: The Last Airbender and After Earth. But then he's also got these movies that they're bad, but I find them fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
these are like movies like old. I haven't seen it, but The Happening probably falls into this category as well.
Yeah, well, I think it definitely, yeah.
Trap probably also falls into this category for me. Like a bad movie, but it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, he's also got these movies that are good, but nobody really talks about them because they're not as interesting as his bad movies.
Which ones?
Like Knock at the Cabin Door and like The Visit as well.
Oh yeah, The Visit. That was Shyamalan. I forgot about that movie.
So he's very interesting. I think like after watching Trap, I've come to respect M. Night Shyamalan a lot as a creative.
Yeah.
Because he just does what he wants to and he sticks to his guns. And like,
Yeah.
because he funded this movie himself. So like,
Oh really?
even if it's an idea that, you know, people won't accept necessarily, he just does it. And he makes stories that are just unapologetically him, you know?
Yeah. I respect that as well. Yeah.
Like, taste is very subjective. Like, everybody has a different take.
Yeah.
And this is speaking as someone who has a podcast as well that we regularly critique movies and TV shows on.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, we've had our fair share of unpopular opinions as well.
That's right. But what we say is not gospel. And what any critic says is not gospel. And it's just our perspective. And everybody has a different perspective on art. And that's kind of the beauty of art, right? So like, you could spend your whole career trying to tinker with the story and create something that's going to please everybody, but that's like an impossible task, right?
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, and
fuck
Shyamalan
that,
doesn't do that either. He just writes and creates things that are just authentically him. Then he brings that vision to life regardless of the results, and he's like having a great time doing that. So like, respect, man. Like those kinds of creatives, even though their movies might be bad, I think there's something to it, you know? Because like, even a terrible film, there's going to be somebody in the world that enjoys watching it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about like the savants out there, like Neil Breen and the Tommy Wiseaus and the
Uwe Boll,
Uwe Boll, the James Nguyen's. You see the Birdemic movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do have to admire that as well. Like, I'm not a particular fan of his movies. I just feel like they somehow lacked a little bit of impact. I feel like he should just. It might not be in his own personality, because maybe it's because The Happening failed so badly that he doesn't want to like push anything that is too much. But like, yeah, I just feel like his movies kind of lack some form of impact. It's just the premise is weird, but still just a little bit too safe for my liking. Yeah, and I really feel that with this movie. Yeah.
I feel like that pop star should have gotten killed. But just quickly though, on nepotism, how do you feel about nepotism, Thavy? Because you know that pop star's his daughter,
Oh,
right?
is that his daughter? I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he self-funded this film as a platform for his musician daughter, Saleeka.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he's got two daughters in the creative industry, I think. So Saleeka is the musician, and the other one is a director.
Is the director? I
and
see.
She directed The Watchers, which I haven't seen.
Apparently it's pretty rubbish, yeah. I mean, like, nepotism, I'm like pretty mixed about, because there are some people that kind of suck that are just there because they know someone. But it's also, on the other hand, you are just someone who has a tool that you can help someone you love, you know?
Yeah.
In that sense, your kids, you want them to have a good life. Why not try to bring them into a field that you have some sway and can make you good money, you know? It's just, in that sense, it's instinctual thing. Whether quality or not, that's a different thing. I mean, like, Nicolas Cage is a nepotism baby, and he's done great.
Well, he didn't use the Coppola name, right? But like, everybody kind of knows he's a Coppola.
He's a Coppola, yeah. Yes, because it does piss me off sometimes.
What about in this instance, though?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was his daughter. So in this instance, like, I don't think the daughter did a particularly... I think she did fine as the singer. And if you are just funding something to help your daughter get noticed, and if she makes something of herself from it, then yeah, sure. Like, I don't mind it.
Did you enjoy the music in this movie? Because the music, I think, is all her.
Not particularly my kind of music.
Yeah,
but
it's not the worst thing though.
yeah, it's not something I would pay money to go see. But it's
Right.
very much in line with like what a tween would listen to. Not essentially my kind of music usually, but I don't mind it either. I mean, it reminds me of like when we kind of like went to Twice or something. Like it's probably like the same like kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, but a lot wilder Twice. I think that's probably one of the more unrealistic elements of this film is how like quiet the interior of the concert was.
Yeah, like you can't really. That's not something.
You can't have a full-on conversation with M. Night Shyamalan during like in the middle of this concert.
and if you are like as big a fan of Lady Wratham as a daughter, you wouldn't like want to miss any part of the concert. Like she kind of seems pretty blasé at just letting her dad just leave and take it over. It's like, oh, we're missing bits of the concert, and just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess she didn't pay for it, so maybe she didn't get as much.
She doesn't get a
But
choice.
it's like,
yeah.
oh man, it's like fucking $300. She got some pretty premium seats.
She was a nice kid though, so maybe that's an element to that. Is like she was one of the nice kids. So
yeah, I really wish that Shyamalan sort of like focused on that family dynamic in the second act.
yeah, he dropped it completely.
Yeah, I really liked how they really like loved each other. It kind of brings it back a little bit when like he gets arrested and she hugs him.
Yeah.
But it's like I didn't really like give a shit about like the wife and the son, and just like yeah.
Clearly, he didn't either. Josh Hartnett's character.
yeah.
The focus kind of shifts to Saleeka as well as Lady Raven for a lot of the second half, which was like, I thought the payoff was going to be like that she'd get got in the end, you know? But I guess
that would have been more interesting.
maybe because it's Shyamalan's
Because it's his
he didn't
daughter.
want to do that.
There you go. I reckon, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would have been more interesting if she did get got, because then it would have added to the stakes and would have been like, holy shit. Like, that really would have worked plot-wise, but it's his daughter. He's not going to kill his daughter in a movie. And that's probably where the nepotism part probably fails, because maybe you know instinctually that this is the better plot point, but you are also like a father trying to provide for your daughter. So
maybe you don't want to see your daughter get brutally murdered on screen. And I think that's fair enough, actually. Now that I'm saying it out loud.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's probably not good. Yeah, he probably wants to make.
It's interesting because people seem pretty on board with his decision to make this film for his daughter, which is like not generally the internet's opinion on nepotism. Usually it swings pretty hard the other way. Like After Earth, for example, people hated that.
I think it was just a shit movie.
Yeah, and I think that might be the difference
about nepotism. Yeah. If it's shit, people are just gonna hate it, and they'll latch on to something. Oh, it's nepotism, you know. I just don't like nepotism when like you put someone in a position of power where they clearly shouldn't be there and have not the experience of being there or the talent to be there.
I think the difference is the level of talent. I think like if the child has some level of talent, then people are generally less offended by nepotism. But if they're, Jaden Smith, then it's a different story. I guess.
Some people say he's talent. What is that guy doing? He like makes music or something. Or is he just an influencer?
Yeah, he does a bit of everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really follow the Smiths these days. But this movie is just okay. I think it's just okay.
It's not the most ridiculous Shyamalan film, but it's not the best Shyamalan film either. It's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle of that spectrum.